الحمد لله رب العالمين له الحمد الحسن ثناء الجميل وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. وإن شرح of the كتاب صفة صلاة النبي من التكبير إلى التسليم كأنك تراها, written by محدث ديار الشام محمد ناصر الدين الألباني رحمه الله. نعم.
القيام إلى الركعة الثالثة ثم الرابعة. ثم كان صلى الله عليه وسلم ينهض إلى الركعة الثالثة مكبرا وأمر به المسيء صلاته في قوله ثم اصنع ذلك في كل ركعة وسجده كما تقدم. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قام من القعدة كبر ثم قام. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يرفع يديه مع هذا التكبير أحيانا. وكان إذا أراد القيام إلى الركعة الرابعة قال الله أكبر وأمر به المسيء صلاته كما تقدم آنفا. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يرفع يديه مع هذا التكبير أحيانا. ثم كان يستوي قاعدا على رجله اليسرى معتدلا حتى يرجع كل عظم إلى موضعه ثم يقوم معتمدا على الأرض. وكان يعجل يعتمد على يديه إذا قام. وكان يقرأ في كل من ركعتين الفاتحة وأمر بذلك المسيء صلاته. وكان ربما أضاف إليهما في صلاة الظهر بضع آيات كما سبق بيانه في القراءة في صلاة الظهر.
Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to summarize that which was recited yesterday and today, inshallah ta'ala, all of the points bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. We're going to give a summary and a khulasa of yesterday what was read and today, inshallah ta'ala. The author rahimahullah mentioned 31 things, inshallah ta'ala, 31 points. We're just going to go through those 31 points bi'idhnillahi al-kareem regarding the second rak'ah that the author rahimahullah mentioned. He said the first thing is ثم ينهض معتمدا على الأرض بيديه المقبوضتين كما يقبضهما العاجن إلى الركعة الثانية وهي ركن. Then he gets up supporting himself, the author says, then he gets up supporting himself upon the ground with his fist clenched, like one who clenches his fist when kneeling, when doing basically the dough, like he does. So he stands up for the second rak'ah, and this is a pillar. The second one, inshallah ta'ala, is he does in the second rak'ah the same as he did in the first rak'ah. That's the second point. وَيَصْنَعُ فِيهَا مَا يَصْنَعُ فِي الْأُولَى. He does in the second rak'ah the same as he did in the first rak'ah. The third point that the author rahimahullah mentioned is أنه لا يقرأ دعاء الاستفتاح. In the second rak'ah, the person does not recite the opening supplication. He doesn't recite it. Point number 4, وَيَجْعَلُهَا أَقْصَرُ مِنَ الرَّكْعَةِ الْأُولَى. He should make the second rak'ah shorter than the first rak'ah. He should make it shorter than the first rak'ah. The author, the fifth point, he said, so when he finishes the second rak'ah, he sits to perform the tashahhud, and this is obligatory. فَإِذَا فَرَغَ مِنَ الرَّكْعَةِ الثَّانِيَةِ قَعَدَ لِلتَّشَهُّدِ وَهُوَ وَاجِبٌ. If the person finishes the second rak'ah, قَعَدَ لِلتَّشَهُّدِ, they sit to perform the tashahhud, وَهُوَ وَاجِبٌ, and that is obligatory. Point number 6, وَيَجْلِسُ مُفْتَرِشًا كَمَا سَبَقَ بَيْنَ السَّجْدَتَيْن. The person sits upon the left foot, laid flat, as preceded with regards to the sitting between the two prostrations. And in muftarishan, we mentioned what it means. It means that one of your foot, you sit on it, and the other one you stand it. So the person, he sits upon the left foot laid flat as preceded with regards to the sitting between the two prostrations. Number 7, the person لكن لا يجوز الإيقاع هنا. However, it is not allowed for you to be sitting upon the two hills for this sitting. You're not allowed to do iqa'. You cannot do squatting like the dog. Number 8, وَيَضَعُ كَفَّهُ الْيُمْنَى عَلَى فَخِذِهِ وَرُكْبَتِهِ الْيُمْنَى وَنِهَايَةُ مَرْفِقِهِ الْأَيْمَنِ عَلى فَخِذِهِ لَا يَبْعُدُ عَنْهُ. The 8th point is it is not allowed for him to sit whilst resting upon his hands, especially the left hand. Number 9, he should not clench all the fingers of his right hand, placing his thumb onto his middle finger sometimes. Number 10. ولا يجوز أن يجلس معتمدا على يده وخصوصا اليسرى. Number 10. So number 9 was what? وَيَبْسُطُ كَفَّهُ الْيُسْرَى عَلَى فَخِذِهِ وَرُكْبَتِهِ الْيُسْرَى. It is allowed to sit upon the two heels for this sitting. وَلَا يَجُوزُ أَنْ يَجْلِسَ مُعْتَمِدًا عَلَى يَدِهِ وَخُصُوصًا الْيُسْرَى. And it is not permissible for him, or is not allowed to sit whilst resting upon his hand, especially the left hand. ويقبض أصابع كفه اليمنى كلها ويضع إبهامه على إصبعه الوسطى تارة. Number 11, he should clench all the fingers of his right hand, placing his thumb onto his middle finger sometimes. Number 12, وتارة يحلق بها حلقة. And at other times or sometimes he may make a circle with his thumb and his middle finger together. ويشير بإصبعه السبابة إلى القبلة. He should point his forefinger towards the Qibla, direction of prayer. ويرمي ببصره إليها. And he should fix his gaze upon his forefinger. ويحركها يدعو بها من أول التشهد إلى آخره. And he should move it, making supplication with it from the start to the end of the tashahhud. ويفعل هذا كله في كل تشهد. Number 16. So number 17, sorry. ويفعل هذا كله في كل تشهد. And he does this. No, sorry. ويحركها يدعو بها من أول تشهد إلى آخره. That's number 15. Okay. He moves his finger, making supplication from the beginning to the end. ولا يشير بأصبع يده اليسرى. And he should not point with his left finger. Number 17. ويفعل هذا كله في كل تشهد. And he should do this in all of his tashahhud. Number 18. والتشهد واجب. The tashahhud is obligatory. إذا نسيه سجد سجدتين السهوي. If he forgets it, then he does the two prostration for forgetfulness at the end of the prayer. ويقرأ سرا. And he reads it. Number 19. He reads low. And he doesn't say it loud. The tashahhud, he doesn't say it loud. Number 19. Number 20. وصيغته, and its form is to say التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات. The author mentions some of the forms of the tashahhud, the wordings for the tashahhud. Number 21. After that, the person sends salutation on the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The person, he sends salutation on the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number 22. If you want to shorten, you can say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad wa barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita wa barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. That's the summarized version that you can do. 23. The author then says, then he may choose, the person may choose في هذا التشهد من الدعاء الواردة أعجبه فيدعو الله به. The person can choose any of the reported supplication that please him and supplicate to Allah with that. ثم يكبر وجوبا. Then the person must then say Allahu Akbar. And the sunnah is to say Allahu Akbar whilst sitting down. ويرفع يديه أحيانا. And sometimes he can raise his hands. That's 25. 26. ثم ينهض إلى الركعة الثالثة. and then the person gets up to the third rak'ah, وهو ركن, and it's a pillar, كالتي بعدها, as it was the rak'ah that came after it. It's a pillar like the pillar to come after. وكذلك يفعل إذا أراد القيام إلى الركعة الرابعة. And number 28 is he does the same if he wants to stand up to the fourth rak'ah. The 28th point, the author says, ولكنه قبل أن ينهض يستوي قاعدا على رجله اليسرى معتدلا حتى يرجع كل عظم إلى موضعه. 28. Before getting up, he should sit up straight, sitting upon his left foot, such that every bone returns to its place. 29. ثم يقوم معتمدا على يديه كما فعل في قيامه إلى الركعة الثانية. Then he stands by supporting himself upon his hands, just as he did in getting up from the second rak'ah. 30. ثم يقرأ في كل من الثالثة والرابعة سورة الفاتحة وجوبا. The 30th is the person must recite Surah Al-Fatiha in the third and the fourth rak'ah. And the 31st point, he said, وَيُضِيفُ إِلَيْهِ آيَةً أو أكثر أحيانا. Sometimes he may also recite an ayah or more in addition to it. Now, so that's a summary of what the author rahimahullah said regarding the second rak'ah and the third rak'ah and the fourth rak'ah. Now,
القنوت في الصلوات الخمس النازلة. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا أراد أن يدعو على أحد أو يدعو لأحد قنت في الركعة الأخيرة بعد الركوع إذا قال سمع الله لمن حمده اللهم ربنا لك الحمد. وكان يجهر بدعائه ويرفع يديه ويؤمن من خلفه. وكان يقنت في الصلاة الخمس كلها في الصلوات الخمس كلها، لكنه كان لا يقنت فيها إلا إذا دعا لقوم أو دعا على قوم، فربما قال اللهم أنجح الوليد بن الوليد وسلمة بن هشام وعياش بن أبي ربيعة، اللهم اشتد وطأتك على مضر واجعلها سنين كسني يوسف، اللهم لعن لحيان ورعل وذكوان وعصية عصت الله ورسوله.
The author rahimahullah, he speaks about al-qunut. Al-qunut is a special invocation for calamity, and when it is a problem that has befallen the ummah, then it is a sunnah to do the qunut. There are a couple of issues that the author rahimahullah brought that we need to mention inshallah ta'ala regarding the qunut. The first issue is, what does the qunut mean? The qaf and the noon and the ta, qanata. It revolves around the meaning of at-ta'atu wal khayru fi ad-din. It revolves around the concept of obedience and doing good in the religion. And originally it means at-ta'a is to obey. That's why the Arabs, they say qanata yaqnutu qunutan. إذا استقام في الطريق, if that person steadfast upon the path. That's why Allah said to Maryama, Ya Maryamu qunuti li rabbiki wasjudi. Qunuti yani ati'i rabbiki. Obey your Lord, Maryam. Listen to what your Lord commanded you. Be a slave who obeys him. Now, that's what it means. But in the Sharia, it means, and that which is benefited from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and the meaning that is taken from the hadith of the Prophet, is that the qunut, it means the supplication and the invocation that a person does at a time of calamity and hardship. Now, it is akhiru salatil layl. It's the last thing in the night prayer. The person, for example, they pray and they witr, and then they pray the qunut. They do it there. It is the dua you call unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The point number 2, the methodologies, the views of the scholars regarding al-qunutu lil-witri. مذاهب أهل العلم, the madhabs of the scholars, the views of the scholars in regards to the qunut in witr is as follows. Okay, is as what follows. The madhab al-Hanafiyya, the Hanafi madhab, they يقنط في صلاة الوتر, they do qunut in صلاة الوتر في جميع العام, in the whole year. And they do not do qunut in any prayer other than the witr, the Hanafiyya. ويقنط فيه بعد القراءة قبل الركوع, and they do the qunut فيه بعد القراءة, after the recitation but before the ruku'. Tahawi mentioned that. He said أنه لا بأس بالقنوت إذا وقعت فتنة أو بلية ومحله عندهم في الركعة الأخيرة من الصلوات الجهرية من الصلوات الخمس. He said. As for Imam al-Tahawi, he mentions that there's no problem in doing the salawat al-jahriyah from the 5 daily prayers. He said there's no problem in that issue. That's what he said. Naam.
القنوت في الوتر وكان
Now the madhab of Imam Malik, madhab al-Malikiyya. The Maliki madhab, they believe al-qunut fi salat al-subhi is a virtue. Salat al-subh, the qunut is a virtue. In the last rak'ah, in the whole entire year. And they give virtue to be done before the ruku' and after it. And they believe that it's not a sunnah to do qunut in the witr. Madhab al-Shafi'iyya, the Shafi'i madhab, they do qunut after raising their heads from the second rak'ah of Salat al-Subh. After the Imam says, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Then they say, Allahumma hadini fi man hadayt. In the whole entire year they do it. And they do qunut بعد الركوع في الوتر في النصف الأخير من شهر رمضان. And also the last part of Ramadan, Shafi'iyya, after the ruku' in the witr prayer in Ramadan, they do qunut. And if there is a nazila, يعني a calamity that befalls the ummah, they also do it in the 5 daily prayers. The Hanabila, they do qunut in the witr, in the last rak'ah, في جميع العام, in the whole year, بعد الركوع, after the ruku', or after the recitation before the ruku'. And according to them, it is disliked qunut in other than witr, unless there comes to the Muslims a calamity other than ta'un. Yani the Hanabila, they don't believe that ta'un is a nazila to do qunut, because they believe that the ta'un amwas, when it happened, they didn't do qunut. Naam, they believe that. مسألة الثالثة, the third mas'ala that we need to know is الراجح في ذلك. What is the strongest opinion in all of those madahibs that we mentioned? That the strongest opinion is it is permissible to do qunut of witr after the recitation of the Quran, قبل الركوع, before the ruku', وبعد الركوع, and even after the ruku' is permissible. But what is better is after the ruku', because it's transmitted from the majority of the Sahabas. And what shows the permissibility of before the ruku' is the narration that has come from Asim, who said, I asked Anas ibn Malik عن القنوت فقال كان القنوت قلت قبل الركوع أو بعده. And Asim, he said, I asked Anas ibn Malik about the qunut, and I said to him, قد كان القنوت. I asked him about the qunut, and then he said to me, there was qunut. And then I said to him, was it before the ruku', after the ruku'? And then he said to me, qablahu, before it. Anas ibn Malik said to me, before it. So that narration shows that it was before it. Then he said, فَإِنَّ فُلَانَ أَخْبَرِنِي عَنْكَ أَنَّكَ قُلْتَ بَعْدَ الرُّكُوعِ. And also he said then to Anas ibn Malik, Asim said, but someone else told me that you said after the ruku'. And then he said, كذب إنما قنت رسول الله بعد الركوع شهرا. He said he lied. إنما قنت رسول الله بعد الركوع شهرا. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he did qunut. إنما قنت رسول الله, the Messenger did qunut sallallahu alayhi wa sallam after the ruku' 1 month. أراه كان بعث قوما يقال لهم قراء زهاء 70 رجلا إلى قوم من المشركين دون أولئك وكان بينهم وبين رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحد فقنت رسول الله شهرا يدعو عليهم. And in 1 month the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم was making dua on some pagan Arabs, in which he sent 70 men to them. But he did it after the ruku'. على كل حال, those narration scholars, they brought them together. Some narrations show that the Prophet did it before and after. So there's no issue in that regard. So it can be done after and before. Now, let me summarize this point, inshallah ta'ala. 12 points. I'm going to summarize it in 12 points. Point number 1. It is a sunnah that it is the person performs a special invocation, yani the qunut, and supplicates for the Muslims when some calamity strikes them. Point number 1. Point number 2. It is to be said after the ruku', after he said Rabbana wa lakal hamd. So Albani rahimahullah, he believes that it must be done after the ruku', but we say both of them, inshallah ta'ala, there's no problem. Number 3. وَلَيْسَ لَهُ دُعَاءٌ رَاتِبٌ. There is no set supplication for the Salatul Qunut. There isn't no set dua for it. Rather, a person can make whatever supplication is suited to the specific calamity. Number 4, وَيَرْفَعُ يَدَيْهِ فِي هَذَا الدُّعَاءِ. The person should raise their hands whilst making the supplication. Number 5, وَيَجْهَرُ بِهِ إِذَا كَانَ إِمَامًا. If he's an imam leading the people in prayer, he should raise his voice with his supplication. Number 6, وَيُؤَمِّنُ عَلَيْهِ مَنْ خَلْفَهُ. Those who are praying behind him say Ameen. Oh Allah, respond to this. Number 7, sorry. Number 7. فَإِذَا فَرَغَ كَبَّرَ وَسَجَّدَ. When he finishes and he says the qunut, then he does the takbir, he says Allahu Akbar and performs the prostration. Number 9. وَمَحَلُّ قَبْلَ الرُّكُوعِ خِلَافًا لِقُنُوتِ النَّازِلَةِ. Number 9. وَمَحَلُّهُ, its place is قَبْلَ الرُّكُوعِ, before the ruku'. خِلَافًا, in opposition to the qunut of the nazila. The qunut for the witr prayer, then it is prescribed to say it before the ruku', in opposition to the qunut of the contempt of a calamity. Shaykh Nasir rahimahullah, that's what he believes. Number 10. The person should make the following supplication: Allahumma hadini fi man hadayt, wa afini fi man afayt, wa tawallani fi man tawallayt, wa barik li fi ma a'tayt, wa qini sharra ma qadayt, fa innaka taqdi wa la yuqda alayk, wa innahu la yadhillu man walayta wa la ya'izzu man adayt, tabarakta rabbana wa ta'alayt, wa la manja minka illa ilayk. The person should say that. La manja minka illa ilayk. The person should say that. ثم يركع, then the person does ruku', ويسجد سجدتين كما تقدم, and the person, he should perform the bowing ruku' and the 2 prostration sujood as has preceded. نعم.
القنوت في الوتر. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول في ركعة الوتر أحيانا ويجعله قبل الركوع. وعلم الحسن بن علي رضي الله عنه أن يقول إذا فرغ من قراءته في الوتر: اللهم اهدني فيمن هديت، وعافني فيمن عافيت، وتولني فيمن توليت، وبارك لي فيما أعطيت، وقني شر ما قضيت، فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك، وإنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت، تباركت ربنا وتعاليت، لا من جاء منك إلا إليك.
نعم.
التشهد الأخير. وجوب التشهد. ثم كان صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد أن يتم الركعة الرابعة يجلس التشهد الأخير، وكان يأمر فيه بما أمر به في الأول ويصنع فيما كان يصنع في الأول، إلا أنه كان يقول فيه متوركا يفضي بوركه اليسرى إلى الأرض، ويخرج قدميه من ناحية واحدة، ويجعل اليسرى تحت فخذه وساقه، وينصب اليمنى وربما فرشها أحيانا، وكان يلقم كفه اليسرى ركبته يتحامل عليه. وسن في الصلاة عليه صلى الله عليه وسلم، كان سن في ذلك في التشهد الأول، وقد مضى هناك ذكر الصيغ الواردة في صفة الصلاة عليه. وجوب.
So the author rahimahullah, he talks about the final tashahhud. The summary of the final tashahhud is the following. Number one, the person, he should sit for the final tashahhud, and both are obligatory. The first and the final tashahhud, according to Shaykh Albani, is obligatory. Number two, he should do in it what he did in the first tashahhud. Number two. Number three, except that he sits with his left hip resting upon the ground in the final tashahhud. That's the third point. The fourth point is his right foot should be placed upright upon the ground. Fourth. Fifth, it is allowed to lay it down flat sometimes, your leg. And number six, he should lean heavily upon his left knee with his palm supporting himself in that manner. Now,
وجوب الصلاة على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وقد سمع صلى الله عليه وسلم رجلا يدعو في صلاته لم يمجد الله تعالى ولم يصلي على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم، فقال عجل هذا، ثم دعاه فقال له ولغيره إذا صلى أحدكم فليبدأ بتحميد ربي جل وعز والثناء عليه، ثم يصلي، وفي رواية يصلي على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم يدعو بما شاء. وسمع رجلا يصلي فمجد الله وحمده وصلى على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم، قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ادعو تجب وسل تعطى.
The author rahimahullah, he mentioned that it's obligatory that the person supplicates for blessings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this tashahhud, and we have mentioned some wordings for this in the section on the first tashahhud. So the author rahimahullah mentioned there the things that a person should be saying, that which should be said in that place. The author rahimahullah mentioned it. Now,
وجوب الاستعاذة من أربع قبل الدعاء. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إذا فرغ أحدكم من التشهد الآخر فليستعذ بالله من أربع، يقول اللهم إني أعوذ بك من عذاب جهنم ومن عذاب القبر ومن فتنة المحيا والممات ومن شر فتنة المسيح الدجال، ثم يدعو نفسي بما بدا له. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يدعو به في تشهده، وكان يعلمه الصحابة رضي الله عنه كما يعلمهم السورة من القرآن.
the author rahimahullah here, he speaks about that it's obligatory to seek from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refuge from four things. So the person must say, oh Allah, I seek refuge with you from the punishment of the hellfire, number one, and from the punishment of the grave, number two, and from the trials of living and dying, number three, and the last one, which is, and from the evil traits of the false Messiah, yani Dajjal. Those four, you must seek refuge in Allah from it. It's wajib in the final tashahhud. Now,
الدعاء قبل السلام وأنواعه. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يدعو في صلاته بأدعية متنوعة تارة بهذا وتارة بهذا، وقال أدعية أخرى، وأمر المصلى أن يتخير منها ما شاء وهكذا. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من عذاب القبر، وأعوذ بك من فتنة المسيح الدجال، وأعوذ بك من فتنة المحيا والممات. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من المأثم والمغرم. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من شر ما عملت ومن شر ما لم أعمل بعد. اللهم حاسبني حسابا يسيرا. اللهم بعلمك الغيب وقدرتك على الخلق أحييني ما علمت الحياة خيرا لي، وتوفني إذا كانت الوفاة خيرا لي. اللهم وأسألك خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة، وأسألك كلمة الحق، وفي رواية الحكم كلمة والعدل في الغضب والرضا، وأسألك القصد في الفقر والغنى. وأسألك نعيما لا يبيد، وأسألك قرة عين لا تنفت ولا تنقطع، وأسألك رضا بعد القضاء، وأسألك برد العيش بعد الموت، وأسألك لذة النظر إلى وجهك، وأسألك الشوق إلى لقائك في غير ضراء مضرة ولا فتنة مضلة. اللهم زينا بزينة الإيمان وجعلنا هداة مهتدين. وعلم صلى الله عليه وسلم أبا بكر الصديق رضي الله عنه أن يقول اللهم إني ظلمت نفسي ظلما كثيرا ولا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت، واغفر لي مغفرة من عندك وارحمني إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. وأمر عائشة رضي الله عنها أن تقول اللهم إني أسألك من الخير كل عاجل وآجل ما علمت منه وما لم أعلم، وأعوذ بك من الشر كل عاجل وآجل ما علمت منه وما لم أعلم. وأسألك في رواية اللهم إني أسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول أو عمل، وأعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول أو عمل. وأسألك وفي رواية اللهم إني أسألك من الخير ما سألك عبدك ورسولك محمد، وأعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه عبدك ورسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. وأسألك ما قضيت لي من أمر أن تجعل عاقبته لي رشدا. وقال لرجل ما تقول في الصلاة؟ قال أتشهد ثم أسأل الله الجنة وأعوذ به من النار. أما والله ما أحسن دندنتك ولا دندنة معاذ. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم حولها ندندن. وسمع رجلا يقول في تشهد اللهم إني أسألك يا الله في رواية بالله الواحد الأحد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد تغفر لي ذنوبي إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم قد غفر له. وسمع آخر يقول في تشهده أيضا اللهم إني أسألك بأن لك الحمد لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك المنان يا بديع السماوات ويا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا حي يا قيوم إني أسألك الجنة وأعوذ بك من النار. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لأصحابه تدرون بما دعا؟ قالوا الله ورسوله أعلم. قال والذي نفسي بيده لقد دعا الله باسمه العظيم، وفي رواية الأعظم الذي إذا دعي به أجاب وإذا سئل به أعطى. وكان من آخر ما يقول بين التشهد والتسليم اللهم اغفر لي ما قدمت وما أخرت وما أسررت وما أعلنت وما أسرفت وما أنت أعلم مني، أنت المقدم وأنت المؤخر لا إله إلا أنت.
The author, rahimahullah, he goes into the supplication dua before the salam, before you say salamu alaikum. What are the du'as that you make? The author mentioned 10 dua that you make. So the person is one of two. He either memorized one of these 10 or more, then alhamdulillah, he reads those. But if a person hasn't memorized any of those, and he hasn't got any of those memorized, then he is allowed to recite any dua that is easy for him, that he knows, that he wants to read, other than these 10. And it will benefit, but as long as it's something that's asking Allah for benefit for the hereafter and your worldly affairs. But it's highly recommended that you try to memorize one of these 10s, at least more than one, as we mentioned, about the issue of at-tanwi' fil ibadat, that you change between the ibadat. Naam.
التسليم. ثم كان صلى الله عليه وسلم يسلم عن يمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله حتى يرى بياض خده الأيمن، وعن يساره السلام عليكم ورحمة الله حتى يرى بياض خده الأيسر. وكان أحيانا يزيد في التسليمة الأولى وبركاته. وكان إذا قال عن يمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله اقتصر أحيانا على قول عن يسار السلام عليكم، وأحيانا كان يسلم تسليمة واحدة السلام عليكم تلقاء وجهه يميل إلى الشق الأيمن شيئا أو قليلا. وكانوا يشيرون بأيديهم إذا سلموا عن اليمين وعن الشمال، فرآه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال ما شأنكم تشيرون بأيديكم كأنها أذناب خيل شمس. إذا سلم أحدكم فليلتفت إلى صاحبه ولا يومئ بيده. فلما صلوا معه أيضا لم يفعلوا ذلك. وفي رواية إنما يكفي أحدكم أن يضع يده على فخذه ثم يسلم على أخيه من على يمينه وشماله. وجوب.
The author, rahimahullah, here he mentions, now further read that part as well.
وجوب السلام. وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول وتحليلها يعني صلاة التسليم.
The author, rahimahullah, here he goes into the final part of the salah, which is a taslim, which is your final taslim. There are a couple of points that the author, rahimahullah, mentioned. Write them down. Number one, the person, he should give salutations to the right side, and this is a pillar, turning his face such that the whiteness of his right cheek can be seen. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That's number one. And the person fully turns to the right side where their cheek can be seen. Good. Point number two, that the author rahimahullah mentioned here is that he then gives salutations to his left side, turning his right, such that the whiteness of his left cheek can be seen, even if it is the funeral prayer. As a second, so this is the process of his whiteness cheek can be seen, alayhi salatu wasalam. So you turn yourself to the left again, and you must do that. That's number 3. And that's number 2. Number 3, the imam leading others in prayer should raise his voice with the salutation except when performing the funeral prayer. He should raise his voice he should raise his voice with the salutation, yani the taslim, except when performing the funeral prayer. Number 4, there are a number of ways of giving the salutations. So there are a number of ways of doing it. A is to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to his right. So he said Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to his right. And then to his left, he just says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This. So the first one is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That's the first form. Second form is to say to your right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That's the first. And then you say to your left, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Both same. The third form is Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Those are the 3 forms that you can say it in. The author rahimahullah, he then mentions to give a single salams facing forwards and turning slightly to the right, saying Assalamu alaikum. That's the 4th form. The 4th form that the author rahimahullah mentioned is, the 4th one is, the person he says Assalamu alaikum, and then he slightly turns to his right, slightly, not fully, just slightly turns to his right, and that's it. The Shaykh rahimahullah mentions it here. Just your right side. You don't do anything to your left side. Now, and the author rahimahullah mentioned that this is all what? It's all wajib. نعم هي
الخاتمة كل ما تقدم من صفة صلاته صلى الله عليه وسلم يستوي فيه الرجال والنساء، ولم يرد في السنة ما يقتضي استثناء النساء من بعض ذلك، بل إن عموم قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلوا كما رأيتموني أصلي يشملهن، وهو قول إبراهيم النخعي قال تفعل المرأة بالصلاة كما يفعل الرجل، أخرجه ابن أبي شيبة بسند صحيح عنه. وحديث انضمام المرأة في السجود وأنها ليست في ذلك كرجل مرسل لا حجة فيه، رواه أبو داود في المراسيل عن يزيد بن أبي حبيب وهو مخرج في الضعيف. وأما ما رواه الإمام أحمد في مسائل ابنه عبد الله عن ابن عمر أنه كان يأمر النساء ويتربعن في الصلاة فلا يصح إسناده لأن فيه عبد الله بن عمر العمري وهو ضعيف. وروى البخاري في التاريخ الصغير بسند صحيح عن أم الدرداء أنها كانت تجلس في صلاتها جلسة الرجل وكانت فقيهة، وهذا آخر ما تيسر جمعه في صفة صلاة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من التكبير التسليم. وأرجو الله تعالى أن يجعله خالصا لوجه الكريم وهاديا إلى سنة نبي الرؤوف الرحيم. وسبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد.
The author rahimahullah, he mentions in the final conclusion that all that has been mentioned regarding the Prophet ﷺ's prayer described applies equally to men and women. And there is nothing in the Sunnah to necessitate the exception of women from any of these descriptions. In fact, the generality of his statements, pray as you have seen me pray, includes women. This is the view of Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, who said, a woman's action in the prayer are the same as a man's, transmitted by Ibn Abi Shayba with a sahih sanad from him. The hadith about indimam al-mar'ati fi sujud, which is tucking up. like the Hanafiya do, of a woman in prostration. And you tend to see that a lot, that in the Indo-Pak community, they believe that the woman should tuck herself in, she shouldn't spread herself out on her hands and everything like that, because she's a woman and she shouldn't be doing that, and the men are only ones that should be doing that. Shaykh Nasir rahimahullah, he says the hadith of indimam, tucking up of a woman in prostration, he says this hadith, وَأَنَّا لَيْسَتْ فِي ذَلِكَ كَالرَّجُلِ, and that the woman is not like the man in this issue, is mursal la hujjata fihi. This hadith is a mursal, and it's da'if, it's not authentic. Abu Dawood transmitted it in his kitab Marasil on the authority of Yazid ibn Abi Habib, and he is transmitted in al-da'if, al-da'ifa, and Yazid ibn Abi Habiba. وأما ما رواه الإمام أحمد في مسائل ابنه عبد الله عنه, and as for what has been transmitted from Imam Ahmad that reports from him through his son Abdullah and Umar أنه كان يأمر النساء يتربعن في الصلاة, that Umar radiallahu anhu used to command the women, he used to command his wives to sit cross-legged in prayer. It is a hadith or an athar, فلا يصح إسناده, its chain of narration is also weak. The reason is because Abdullah ibn Umar al-Umari is in there and is a weak person. As for Imam al-Bukhari narrated in his Tarikh al-Saghir with a authentic chain, and Darda, from our mother Darda, that she used to sit in her prayer just as a man sits, and she was a woman of understanding. Shaykh Nasir says, وَكَانَتْ فَقِيهًا. This is a proof. أَنَّهَا كَانَتْ تَجْلِسُ فِي صَلَاتِهَا جَلْسَةَ الرَّجُلِ. She used to pray like the man. She used to do the sitting of the men. She used to sit exactly like a man. وَكَانَتْ فَقِيهًا. Bukhari narrated that she was a woman of understanding. And then the author rahimahullah, he says, this is the last of what has been possible to compile regarding the description of the Prophet's prayer, from the takbir to the taslim. I hope that Allah will make it sincerely for his face, full of honor, and a guide to the sunnah. And his kind and merciful Prophet, glorified be Allah and praised. Glorified be you, O Allah, and praised. I bear witness that there is none true God except you. I seek forgiveness from you and repent to you. O Allah, send prayers on Muhammad and on the family of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and send blessings on Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and on the family of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as you sent prayers on Ibrahim alayhi salam and the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam. You are indeed worthy of praise, full of glory. So the kitab of Shaykh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani, صفة صلاة النبي من التكبير إلى التسليم كأنك تراها, we finished it there. I do want to say that this book is a very big book, even though it looks very small. There are many things that the author rahimahullah mentioned in there that really required more details, more explanation, more commentary, yani looking more into it. When I took this book, I remember the hours that we took it in originally when we studied with the Shaykh was over 50 hours. And 50 hours of studying this book. Okay. And I haven't even done half of that. And I only had 5 days, which were 2 hours taqriban average. So we're talking about 10 hours. So you can imagine 10 hours, what was taught in 50 hours plus. I remember it was nearly 60 hours taqriban of studying this book, and 10 hours. So you can see the difference. It's a book that should have gone on for a long, long time by itself. But again, it's a Dawrah Ilmiyyah. It's just to give you the summary and the khulasa of this chapter. Anything which I have said that was wrong or incorrect is from me and shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger are both free from it. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. After the salah, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to take your questions bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. So think about your questions and write it down, and we'll inshallah ta'ala try to take everyone's questions bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you give me the iPad? It's Q&A. Okay. If anyone has any questions, inshallah ta'ala, put your questions forward. Bi-idhnillah al-kareem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Ustadh. Is it permissible for us to say Assalamu alaikum on the right side and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi on the left side? No, there's no evidence for that. There is no evidence for that. Ya Ustadh, is saying Subbuhun Qudusu Rabbul Malaikati wal Ruh one time in ruku' sufficient according to those who say that tasbih is wajib? Or does it have to be Subhana Rabbil Azim? Subhana Rabbil Azim, you say it 3 times. Subbuhun Quddus Rabbul Malaikati wal Ruh, you can say it once. You can say it once. But Subhana Rabbil Azim, a lot of the scholars, they say you have to say it 3 times. You must say it 3 times. You can't say it once. But if you don't want to say Subhana Rabbil Azim, then you have to say at least 1 time, at least 3 times, Subbuhun Quddus Rabbul Malaikati wal Ruh. Naam. Ustadh, can a wall be a sutra also? What if a sutra distracts the person? Yes, a wall can be a sutra. As we mentioned, a wall can be a sutra. You can use the wall as a sutra. There's nothing wrong with using a wall as a sutra. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to use the wall as a sutra. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to use the wall as a sutra. Naam. جزاك الله خيرا أستاذ وبيض الله وجهك. شاهدت مناقشة بينك وبين أسرار رشيد، فقال أسرار رشيد إمام سبكي من المنهج الأشعري، فهل يجوز لطالب العلم أن يأخذ؟ اشرح لنا بارك الله فيك. الإمام تاج الدين السبكي يعني he did have Ash'ariya concepts with him. يعني the scholars, they mention that his Aqidah was the Aqidah of the Ash'ara. Him and many of some, him and many others like Suyuti rahimahullah and many other scholars, they have Ash'ariya. Naam. What is the solution for continuous waswas in prayer and wudu, and spitting on the left doesn't increase it? What should a person do who has excessive waswas? Excessive waswas. If you've got it, what should you do? Are you always going to spit on your left? La shakka wala rayb. If you've got a lot of waswas, if you've done it once and you spat on your left side 3 times once, then carry on your prayer. Inshallah ta'ala, it will go. Ignore it from then onwards. Bi-idhnillah al-kareem. But there's something called tasalsul. Some people, they give in every time. They give in every time. Waswas generally starts from 1 time. that you give in, and then again you give in, and then you give in, and then every time you have that waswas. I'll give an example. There was a time I used to always think that I never locked my car. For example, I used to think like that. I never locked my car. And so first time I listened to it, I did it. I went back to check if it was locked, and then I left. And then second time happened, I did the same thing. I checked again. And from then onwards, it became an issue for me every time I was checking. So at a point, I had to say to myself, no. Lock it and leave it. Don't ever go back to it again. And don't check it. And after that, it went, alhamdulillah. The waswas just left. Because what happens is then you're going to do that, and then you're going to do it for something else, and you're going to do it for something else, and then something else, and the waswas becomes so much. So ignore it. Once you've seen that this thing is becoming a lot, just ignore it. Even that you feel a certain way in your head, what about, just ignore it. Just ignore it. Okay? I just want to mention, inshallah ta'ala, the virtuous days of Dhul Hijjah has come our way. The virtuous days of Dhul Hijjah have come our way. So I just want to mention the virtues of Dhul Hijjah, the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, and then inshallah ta'ala, I want to mention some things that you should all try to do bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in a hadith, alayhi salatu wasalam, مَا الْعَمَلُ فِي أَيَّامٍ أَفْضَلَ مِنْهَا فِي هَذِهِ. That the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, there's no actions better in these days. يعني أيام ذي الحجة. The ayam of al-ashr al-awail min Dhul Hijjah, the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. So the Sahabas, they said, walal jihad, even jihad, O Messenger of Allah. The Messenger said, walal jihad, even jihad. Illa rajulun kharaja yukhatiru bi nafsihi wa mali falam yarji' bi shay'in. Except a man who went with his nafs and his wealth, and he never came back with anything. He lost everything. So, in this 10 days that you're in, there are righteous actions that if you do, there are no other days like it. وَلِذَلِكَ, the scholars, they say, these first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah are better than the last 10 days of Ramadan. But the last 10 nights of Ramadan is better than these 10 nights. So the nights of Ramadan is better than these nights, but the days of these days are better than even the last 10 days of Ramadan. And that is how to reconcile between the opinions. ولذلك Allah swore by these nights. He swore by these days. وَالْفَجْرِ وَلَيَالٍ عَشْرٍ. The 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. يعني the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Ibn Abbas took that opinion. So, what is it that we must do in these days? What is it that we should try to come with? If it's the best 10 days in the world, the best 10 days in the entire world are these 10 days. What should we do? We divide the righteous actions into two. A'mal salihah mutlaqa, unrestricted righteous actions that you can do. And those are all the righteous actions. Like, for example, dhikrullah, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as-siyam, silatul rahim, tilawatul Quran, al-hajj. And other than that, you should try to do those in these days. Okay? The unrestricted righteous actions. Asking Allah for istighfar, and etc. Praying qiyamul layl. Making sure that you fast these days. Making sure that you keep ties of kinship. Calling family members. Reciting the Quran. If you could have done Hajj as well. And all these actions are al-a'mal as-salihah al-mutlaqa, unrestricted righteous actions. You try to do all of those. Okay? But there are also actions that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do these days. There are specific righteous actions that one can do in these 10 days that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do. كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصوم 9 ذي الحجة ويوم عاشوراء وثلاثة أيام من كل شهر. That the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to fast. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is specific actions that you should try to do. He used to fast alayhi salatu wasalam, as is transmitted from him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So try to fast these days and not to miss out in fasting. Okay. Also, it's recommended to try to do the udhiyah, the slaughter, as Eid al-Adha is coming. If Allah has given you the finance and the ability to do so, inshallah ta'ala, to do that slaughter. Bi-idhnillah al-kareem. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who remember him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you recommend books similar to Sifatu Safwa by Ibn al-Jawzi? By the way, the Kitab Sifatu Safwa by Ibn al-Jawzi is originally an abridged version of the Kitab Hilyatul Awliya wa Tabaqatul Asfiya by Abu Nu'aym al-Asfahani. As you know, Abu Nu'aym al-Asfahani, his Kitab Hilyatul Awliya wa Tabaqatul Asfiya, he did something. Okay? What he did was that he took the scholars and then he does their biography and he speaks about them, and then he attributes to them that they have that they're Sufis. Like, for example, he does the biography of Imam Shafi'i, and then he mentions there in that Imam Shafi'i was a Sufi. Abu Nu'aym al-Asbahani, that's what he does. What Ibn al-Jawzi did was, he sifted all of that stuff out, and all of the weak narrations and this and that, and he brought this Kitab Sifatu Safwa out, which he got rid of all of those incorrect stuff that Abu Nu'aym al-Asbahani said. لذلك Abu Nu'aym attributing tasawwuf to Imam al-Shafi'i is incorrect. Then Imam al-Shafi'i is the one who said, anyone who becomes tasawwuf, who becomes Sufi in the morning, at the end of the day, he becomes a dim-witted individual, ahmaq. So that's what the kitab is about. So the kitab is full of benefits. The kitab Sifatu Safwa by Ibn al-Jawzi, very good kitab. Kutubs that I will encourage that I like that is the kutubs written by Ibn Abi Dunya. Ibn Abi Dunya has a mawsu'ah. The mawsu'ah of Ibn Abi Dunya are very, very good. I encourage you to get them and look at them and read them. Also the mu'allafat written by al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. They're very beneficial and they're very good. You get those heart softening from it that Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentions. Siyar Alam al-Nubala by Imam al-Dhahabi is very, very good. It's very beneficial. You get a lot from it. Kitab al-Adhkar by Imam al-Nawawi. People don't really see that book as to have that. But Nawawi has nice beneficial parts in the kitab that touch your heart. Good advices and good reminders in there. Rahimahullah ta'ala. I encourage you to get those books, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, so will you be uploaded the complete details explanation of Madhab Shuja' or another fiqh? Inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to be doing a silsila on the madhab of Imam al-Shafi'i from the beginning to the end, inshallah ta'ala. That's the mashru' that we started. We're working on it behind the scenes. So there is going to be, inshallah ta'ala, not just Matn Abi Shuja', but all of the fiqh al-Shafi'iyya. So we're going to start from the kitab, the Safinatul Najah we're going to be doing. And then inshallah ta'ala, we're going to go to the Matn Abi Shuja'. And then after that, we're going to be doing the Yaqutul Nafis. And then we're going to be doing the Zubad, and then Umdatul Salik wa Uddatul Nasik, Ibn Naqib al-Masri. Then we're going to do the Minhaj of Imam al-Nawawi, and then the Irshad by Abu Bakr ibn al-Bukhari. Rahimahumullah jami'an. May Allah have mercy upon each and every one of them. So silsila in the Kutub al-Shafi'iyya we're going to be doing, inshallah ta'ala. But now we're doing other things as well. So it's on the list. It's on the to-do list. Bi'idhnillah al-Kareem. When you have children at home and you're praying and your mind is conscious of what they are doing, as they might fight or do anything more, so does our salah become invalid? If, for example, the khushu' of the salah, the scholars, they mention that if the person doesn't even know the rak'ah they prayed, they're unaware of the rak'ah they prayed, so you just say Allahu Akbar, and all you know is that you don't even know how many rak'ah you prayed, that salah is null and void. You have to bring it back again. Okay, but if every now and then you lose your focus and you come back again, and you lose your focus and you come back, but you know what you were reciting, you were contemplating generally on what you were saying, you knew every movement that you were doing, and then that salah, inshallah ta'ala, even though it's deficient because you haven't fully focused on it, but it's not null and void. Dear Ustadh, if we catch the jama'at late, do we raise up the missed rak'at after the imam says the first salam or the second salam? So if a person missed the salah, he came to the salah and the imam, he missed one rak'ah, for example, it's Isha, for example, he missed one rak'ah, and he catches the last 3 rak'ats. So then that means they have to stand up for the 4th rak'ah, right? They have to stand up. So the questioner is saying, do I have to stand up when the Imam says Assalamu alaikum the first time? Or do I have to stand up when he does the second time? No, you stand up when he does the first time, because as I mentioned to you, the first time is when the salah finishes. The second one is not when the salah finishes. Yani a person can just do 1 salams and leave the salah. No. The ghusl done on a Friday is mustahab, as mustahab, or ghusl done generally, as you mentioned, every day. Does one have to make wudu again separately to perform salah? I didn't understand the question properly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah preserve you. What is the latest time witr may be performed? What is the latest time a person can perform witr? Before Fajr. Inshallah ta'ala. Ustadh, are the nights of the 10 days of the Hijjah more rewardable than the other nights? Yes, but not the last 10 days of Ramadan. Yani the last 10 days of Ramadan are better than the nights of Dhul Hijjah. But the nights of Dhul Hijjah are better than the other nights other than the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How is one put to practicing hating for the sake of Allah and loving for His sake? What are the etiquettes of it? MashaAllah, a very good question. How do you implement the concept of loving for Allah's sake and hating for Allah's sake? The way that you implement this is that you divide the religion into, the religion is divided into these 3 concepts. So Tawheed, Sunnah, and Ta'ah. Tawheed means a person who's upon monotheism, the oneness of Allah, who worships Allah alone. Those are the people you show allegiance to. A muwahhid, you show allegiance to them. A person who believes only worshipping Allah alone. A person who has fallen into shirk and has deficiencies in those concepts, your issue of disassociation is in place. The second one is a sunnah, a person who sticks to the Prophet ﷺ sunnah and doesn't fall into innovation. You show allegiance to them. The third one is someone who's upon ta'ah, obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and is distant from sinning. And when we say sinning, we mean they don't do major sins and they are not consistent upon minor sins. And if it happens from them that they do minor sins, they repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the person who repents is like he's never done that sin ever before. So the people are those types. A muwahhid, the opposite of a muwahhid is a mushrik. A person who's upon the sunnah and a person who's upon innovation, bid'ah. A person who's upon ta'ah, obedience of Allah, and a person who's upon ma'asi, sins. Those are the 3 categorizations. You show the people of Tawheed allegiance and love. You show the people of the Sunnah love and allegiance. And you also show the people of Ta'ah love and allegiance and appreciation. If a person is, so the people are, the love that you give them is in accordance to their sins. If a person's sins is very high, the disassociation is very high. If the person's lower in sins and is very small, his disassociation is less. Because the scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah mentions that the disassociation and the love, it can be broken down. And just because a person sinned or he fell short in the religion, disassociation blank like that, it's not the case. There's 2 sinners, one is doing minor sins and one is doing major sins. The love is not going to be the same for both. The love is not going to be the same for the both. And the disassociation is not going to be the same for both. So don't fall into extreme into any of those. Can you use a book with the various supplications while praying in a voluntary prayer? What is the best way to memorize the supplications of the salah? The best way, la shakka wa la rayb, is to memorize it. La shakka wa la rayb is best to memorize it before the salah. and it's best to memorize it before the salah. That's it. But if a person hasn't memorized it, doesn't know it, then they can, and the salah is voluntary prayer. You are allowed to take something with you to read from it. Now, like in Fatiha, whether it's obligatory prayer or whether it's not an obligatory prayer, so Fatiha, you have to read. If you can read from somewhere, the person has to read from the paper. Ustadh, do you give ijazas in any of the Shafi'i mutun? Yes, I do, to the people who's taken these books with me, who studied these books with me from beginning to end, and other conditions, inshallah ta'ala. Then inshallah we give ijazat in those books that we have ijazas of. Who is better, or which act is better? A person prays all the fard and also sunnah and nafil prayers, but not night prayer, or a person who prays a 5 daily fard only, but wakes up for the tashahhud. The rawatib that the person prays, I'll get back to you on that question, inshallah ta'ala. I'll get back to that on that question, inshallah ta'ala. Someone who prays the 5 daily prayers and the sunnahs after and before it, or a person who prays the 5 daily prayers and only qiyamul layl. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll get back to you on that, inshallah ta'ala. Ustadh, the basic principle is that we're not supposed to live among the mushrikeen, because the Prophet ﷺ said, I disown every Muslim who settles amongst the mushrikeen, narrated by Abi Dawood. Yeah, what's the question from that? How can we memorize Quran fast? How can you memorize the Quran fast? First of all, stay away from sins. Second one is beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and supplicate to him. Number 3, it's repetition. Takrar. Repetition is the best thing. Anything you're memorizing, brothers and sisters, anything you're memorizing it, repeat it multiple times. Just keep repeating it. And repeat it so much times. And the repetition shouldn't just be once, but it should be 5 times here, and then the next day again 5 times, and the next day 5 times, and then the next day 5 times, and then the next day 5 times. Spread out the repetition. Don't do it all at once, okay? Repetition is the best way forward. Is it permissible to pray only one single rak'ah as witr after the Isha? Yes, you can. And you can pray only one rak'ah. Salam, Ustadh. Please reply about tying of your hair you had mentioned yesterday. Can a wall pillar be sutra? In Indo-Pak, many people say the 3 witr in the same manner as Maghrib 3 fard. Is that correct? Allowed? I answered the question of praying. A wall and a pillar can be sutra. A wall and a pillar can be sutra. I already mentioned that, inshallah ta'ala. Also, the witr, yes. The witr can be prayed in 2 ways. It can be prayed with, you can connect all 3 of them, okay? Or you can pray 2 and then 1. And you can do it like that. Is tying their hair forbidden for both men and women for salah? No. Men are not allowed to tie their hair whilst they're praying. But the women are different. The women are different. The men only. This only applies to the men. Men are not allowed to tie their hair when they are praying the salah. Okay? They're not allowed to. The men are not allowed to. So the man has to unplait his hair. If he's plaited his hair, he has to open it. He's allowed to do it outside the prayer. He can tie his hair if he wants behind outside the prayer. But when he's in the salah, he has to open it. As for the woman, no. What is the ruling on witr? How many rak'ahs? Witr can be prayed as 3, 5, 7, 9. The Prophet prayed 11 rak'ah of witr, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And all of that was called witr. I have a video online where I spoke about the witr by itself. Now, dear Ustadh, if a person is coming, the person is among the category of the mujtahiduna, then is he allowed to do tafsir of Quran on his own, or it means that he is independent in fiqh issues only? A mujtahid mutlaq, unrestricted mujtahid, he goes to the Quran and he extracts ruling from it. The mujtahid mutlaq, he can look at the Quran and the Sunnah and bring out rulings from the Quran and the Sunnah. That's a person who's a mujtahid mutlaq, an unrestricted mujtahid. But if he's a mujtahid, but he's a mujtahidun fi madhabi, he's a mujtahid only in one madhab, then he can't just go to the Quran and the Sunnah, extract everything. He can only do ijtihad in a particular issue. Or he's a mujtahid in nahu, grammar, and he's not mujtahid in fiqh, for example. There's some people like that. They're mujtahideen in one field of the religion, but they are not mujtahid in another field. Or they're mujtahid in one madhab and they're not in the other madhabs. They are mujtahid. So we could say that so-and-so is a mujtahid, for example, in this particular field. That doesn't mean he can do ijtihad in the other field. There are people like that. For example, Asim ibn Abi Najud, al-Qari al-Kabir, the great Qari. He's a proof in Quran. He's a hujjah in the Quran. Hujjah. He's a proof. You could just say Asim ibn Abi Najud recited like this. Khalas. No one's going to ask any more questions. Asim. لكنه ضعيف في الحديث. لكن عاصم بن أبي نجود in hadith he's considered to be weak. Are we all together, brothers? So that can happen. That can happen. A person is this and a person is that. Now. Okay. جزاك الله خير وبيض الله وجهك. شو الفرق بين السلفي والأثري؟ في الناس يسميهم بسلفي والأثري. بارك الله فيك. السلفي والآثري وأهل السنة فرقة الناجية وطائفة المنصورة, all of them are mutaradif. They are synonyms. They're one and the other. They are all the same. سلفي, آثري, طائفة المنصورة, فرقة الناجية, all of these are the same. They all mean the same. That's what it means. Salafi is the person who follows as-salaf as-salih, the pious predecessors, the ones that Allah commanded us to follow. والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. That's the Salafi. And an Athari is the one who follows the Athar al-Manqula عن الصحابة, the Athar that was transmitted from the Sahabas رضوان الله عليهم أجمعين. That's Athari. يعني يتبع الأثر. He follows the Athar. He follows the Sahabas and what they said. So these are synonyms. One and they all mean the same. يعني Athari, Salafi, أهل السنة, طائفة المنصورة, فرقة الناجية. All of these are synonyms, one and the other. Okay. Sheikh, what is the Ikhwani Creed? The Ikhwani Creed is from the 72 sects that are deviated from the straight path. Yani they are from the 70 other two sects, as Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz rahimahullah mentioned. And the only saved sect are those who hold on to the Quran was Sunnah bifahmi salaf as-salih. The 72 sects are in there. The Sufiyya, the Tabliqiyya, the Ikhwanis, all of these, they fall into the 72 groups. As Sheikh ibn Baz fatwa was, rahimahullah, when he was asked. Now, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve you, Ustadh. What is the ruling on an individual praying for a sacrifice to take place around for Eid? Should they also follow the obligations upon someone who is slaughtering? May Allah preserve you, Ustadh. Allahumma ameen. What is the ruling on an individual paying for a sacrifice to take place abroad for Eid? Now, if a person is paying for a sacrifice, they take the same ruling as they themselves who are sacrificing. This is a mas'ala in fiqh known as tawkeel. You're doing tawkeel, you're passing this issue on to someone else who's taking your place. So what you have, inshallah ta'ala, is the same ruling as the person who's sacrificing. So you both have to be in line with each other. You can't cut your nails and your hair and whatnot, inshallah ta'ala. Ustadh, is venerating Allah and humbling ourselves to Allah the same thing? Is it like uluhiyya and ibadah? Ibadah stands on two pillars. It stands on kamalul khudu' and kamalul mahabba, complete humility and complete veneration, with complete love. This is called ta'zeem. Okay, ta'zeem is complete humiliation or complete humbleness, and complete love together is called ta'zeem. Okay, that's ta'zeem together. So complete humbling and complete love together is called equals ta'zeem. It's all called ta'zeem. Naam. Ustad, after Surah Fatiha, is it for the dua in the last ayah or the entire surah? Good. The Ameen that is made in Surah Al-Fatiha, is it referring to the last ayah, which is Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, or is it referring to the whole surah? Remember we said that the Ameen, Allahumma stajib. If we take that opinion, Ameen, there's an aqwal regarding what Ameen means. Okay? Like if we take the view that it means Allahumma stajib, which is a qawl al-rajih, inshallah, it's referring to the whole entire surah. It's referring to the entire surah. Now, someone might come and say, but then in the surah, that's the only part which is the dua. We say the dua is categorized into two. Remember, we mentioned this before. Dua mas'alatin wa talab. And there's a dua which is ta'zeem wa tamjeed wa tasbih wa tahleel. And Surah Al-Fatiha, it has the ta'zeem and the tamjeed in there, and it also has the mas'ala and the talab. And the ameen refers to both of those types of dua. We mentioned that in the lesson. Ustad is Assalamu alaikum. Ustad, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve you. What is the answer for the question that you gave us as homework yesterday? Did you previous Naam. So it's true, I asked the question yesterday. I said, based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, does it show that the previous nation, because the Prophet was asked, alayhi salatu wasalam, how are you going to recognize your nation Yawm al-Qiyamah? And then the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave a parable. He said that the horses, if they have color, if they're bright on their hooves and on their faces, and they are put inside horses that have only one color, could you recognize one from the other? The Sahabas, of course. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the ones who do sujood and they do wudu, they will be recognized Yawm al-Qiyamah for their wudu and their sujood, and I will know that that's my ummah. I'll recognize that as my ummah. So what I asked is that, does that show us that the previous nations, they didn't do wudu for their salahs? Is that what we understand from it? So if anyone can answer, inshallah ta'ala, I'll try to read it bi'idhnillah al-kareem. I don't want to answer. I just want, if anyone's researched that issue, inshallah ta'ala, has looked into it, bi'idhnillah al-kareem. Okay, someone said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallahu khairan. AbdulRahman, عندي سؤال. ما هو السبيل التعليم في أحاديث الأحكام للمبتدئين? How can you learn the ahadith al-ahkam? The scholars, when it comes to books of hadith, they categorize it into many types. There are kutubs which are called kutub ahadith al-ahkam. And those kutubs which are hadith al-ahkam, it means that they refer to jurisprudent rulings. These ahadith, you take fiqh from it, and ahkam, halal and haram, basically. Books like that are Umdatul Ahkam, Bulugh al-Maram, Al-Muharrar ibn Abdul Hadi, Al-Ilmam by Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, Al-Muntaqa li Abi Barakat Abdul Salam ibn Abdul Salam Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, Al-Muntaqa, which Shawkani explained in his kitab Nail al-Awtar. These kutubs are called kutub ahadith al-ahkam. Sunan Abi Dawud is like that. Kutub Sunan are also ahadith al-ahkam, other than Tirmidhi. Tirmidhi is Jami'. Lakin Abi Dawud, Al-Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, these are kutub ahadith al-ahkam. And the biggest of them all is, the biggest of kutub ahadith al-ahkam, the biggest one is the Sunan of Al-Imam al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah, which he wrote. Al-Imam al-Bayhaqi wrote it, Sunan al-Kubra, for the Shafi'i madhab, the ahadith that we need for ahkam. He wrote Sunan al-Kubra for us, Shafi'iyya. So that's the biggest book. But the scholars, they say, if anybody memorizes Sunan Abi Dawud, and he memorizes it, understands it, internalizes Sunnah Abi Dawood, that individual, and understands and memorizes the Quran and does the tafsir of the Quran, and he knows all of the ulum al-ala, and the instrumental knowledge. He knows mustalah, he knows hadith, he studied mustalah al-hadith and ilm al-hadith, he studied nahu, sarf, balagha, and he studied the qawaid al-fiqh and maqasid al-sharia, all of the ulum al-ala, and he done the tafsir of the Quran and he memorized it all in its totality, and he learned the qira'at, and he studied Sunnah Abi Dawood. Ahlul ijtihad. He's ahlul lil ijtihad. He has the right to do ijtihad. So how do you study ahadith al-ahkam? Ahadith al-ahkam, the best way to study kutub ahadith al-ahkam is to first of all study with a shaykh. La shakka, a person should not try to study by himself. You should study with a shaykh. The scholars, they teach these books in 3 ways. Yani kutub ahadith al-ahkam, if you want to learn a hadith, the following way is the best way to do it. Get a hadith, look at the Sahabi who narrated it, write his name down, his full name. Yani full name of the Sahabi. Make sure you know the Sahabi's name. Second part is look at the hadith, the method of the hadith, what the Prophet ﷺ said. That's the second thing. Fiqhul hadith. Ma yustafadu min al-hadith, that which is benefited from the hadith. You write that all down. And the third thing is the makhraj of the hadith, where the hadith is narrated in. What book is it found in? Is there other wordings for the hadith? Those 3 things, if you understand for each hadith that you study in a hadith al-ahkam, you're very good. And one of the mashayikhs who did this, who alhamdulillah served a lot of the books in that way, is Abdullah ibn Salih al-Fawzan. Al-Allama, Abdullah ibn Salih al-Fawzan, he has a sharh of the kitab, Umdatul Ahkam, which we called it Al-Ifham, في شرح عمدة الأحكام. That kitab is 4 volumes, لكنه نفيس, 4 volumes. Very good book. Recently came out. He has a sharh on Bulugh al-Maram. He has a what? Sharh on the kitab of Bulugh al-Maram. 15 volumes تقريبا. 15 volumes. Ibn al-Jawzi publishes his works, generally speaking. He also has a sharh on, after he done Umdatul Ahkam and Bulugh al-Maram, the zawaid, the extra hadith that are found in the Muharrar ibn Abdul Hadi, he done a sharh for it. So when you study Umdatul Ahkam and then you study Bulugh al-Maram, there are extra hadiths that are found in Muharrar ibn Abdul Hadi. What did he do? He done sharh on it. He explained those zawaid that are found in the Muharrar of Ibn Abdul Hadi. He explained that separately by itself. This 3, if you take it, mashallah, you are good with, and you memorize them. Ahadith al-ahkam, you have it. ولذلك I've always said, if a person studies a madhab, a particular madhab, it doesn't matter. So for example, each madhab, I'm going to mention a book. For example, madhab al-Hanafiyya, if you memorize Kitab al-Hidayah by Marghinani. Malikiyya, you memorize Mukhtasar al-Khalil. Shafi'iyya, you memorize Minhaj. Hanabila, you memorize Zad. Those 4 madhabs, I mentioned each a book for them. And then you add on to that Bulugh al-Maram. So if you're a Hanafi, you done Al-Hidayah by Marghinani. You're a Hanaf, you're a Shaf, you're a Maliki. You do the hifd of the Kitab Mukhtasar al-Khalil. You're a Shafi'i Minhaj. Hanafi Zad. Whichever madhab you attribute yourself to, you memorize the book of that madhab, that book I mentioned. And then you memorize Bulugh al-Maram. And you understand it. You're a faqih. But by the time you reach Minhaj, what did you do? You did the whole silsila to get to Minhaj. If you're doing that Hanbali madhab, Zad is the last book you're going to take, right? So you're going to first do all the other books before it. Mukhtasar al-Khalil is the last book that you do. You have to do more the other books before it. The Hidayah by Marghinani is the last book that you do. You have to start with the small books before that, Mukhtasar al-Quduri, and go like that. Tadarruj. Then your fiqh is going to be very good. Why did 4 Imams differ on moving the finger when they were the closest to the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and how all of them miss it? Any other examples of 4 of them differing on something? The 4 Imams, the reason why they differed, there's a kitab written on it. Ibn Taymiyyah wrote it. It's called Raf'ul Malam an A'immatil A'lam. Ibn Taymiyyah gives 10 reasons, 10 asbab, 10 reasons why the scholars would differ amongst themselves. 10 reasons that would make the imams of the madahibs differ with each other. Not just them, but even the sahabas and the fuqaha, anyone, why they would differ. And from the reason sometimes is a hadith might reach one person, but not the other person. That he never heard of that hadith before. And then when he hears the hadith, he takes it. Because Ibn Shafi'i rahimahullah in his kitab Juma'ul Ilm, and also in his kitab Al-Risala, Riwayat Rabi' ibn Sulaiman al-Muradi, Shafi'i mentions that no one's memorized the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in its totality. The Quran, yes, it's been hifd, mahfuz. You find someone who's memorized, Qira'at al-Sughra wal-Kubra, mashallah, all the Quran is in his head. No one has ever done that for the hadith. No one could say, I memorize all the hadith of the Prophet in my head. There's not one hadith missing from me. No. ولذلك الإمام الذهبي, when he was talking about Imam Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he mentioned that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah said, حديث لا يعرفه ابن تيمية فليس بحديث إلا أن الإدراك لله عز وجل. يعني Dhahabi says that a hadith that Ibn Taymiyyah doesn't know is not a hadith, except he had to stop himself, you see, except that only Allah is the one who has all of the knowledge. يعني a hadith, you can't know it in its totality. There are hadiths that are missing from you. That's why the A'immah was saying, if you hear a hadith that goes against what I said, take the hadith and ignore my statement. Okay? So sometimes that's why they would oppose one another. One might know and one might not know. Man alima hujjatun ala man lam ya'lam. The one who knows is a proof against the one who doesn't know. Because he has ziyadatu ilmin. Sometimes the reason why they might differ is a hadith قد يبلغ شخص لكن بطريقة ضعيفة. That the hadith might reach this imam, but it reaches him in a weak sanad. But the same hadith reaches another imam, but through a sanad which is sahih. This one might reject and this one might accept it. Are we all together? So there are asharat asbab. Ibn Taymiyyah mentions in his kitab Raf'ul Malam an A'immat al-A'lam the reason why the imams will differ amongst themselves. So inshallah ta'ala, try to look at that book. جزاك الله خيرا. الكتاب التوحيد أفضل من سلم الوصول للحفظ وما سبب لذلك. كتاب السلم الوصول إلى علم الأصول written by Imam Hafidh al-Hakami rahimahullah is أسهل لا شك والنظم أسهل للحفظ. The nazm is easier to be memorized. Yeah, the nazm is always easier than a nathr. لا شك. Nazm is easier. So سلم الوصول is easier. أقول حافظ الحكمي أقول مستعينا بالله. That he starts the book with راضٍ به مدبرا الحمد لله كما هدانا إلى سبيل الحق واجتبانا أحمده سبحانه وأشكره ومن مساوي عملي أستغفره وأستعينه على نيل الرضا وأستمد لطفه فيما قد هدى. This kitab is a nazm form. A person, by memorizing this kitab, the person can hold on to it for a long, long time. Whereas if you memorize a nasr, you forget it. Forget a nasr. You won't remember it. One of the things that said in Salim al-Usul Sahib, Salim al-Usul mentions is that he says, when he talks about the شروط لا إله إلا العلم واليقين والقبول والانقياد فدري ما أقول والصدق والإخلاص والمحبة وفقك الله لما أحب. It's حافظ الحكمي that says that. شروط لا إله إلا الله, he mentions it there. يعني if it was somewhere else, you probably forget it. But because it's another, it's easier to memorize, easier to hold on to. And the kitab was ajib is حافظ الحكمي سلم الوصول. He wrote it when he was only 19, I think, تقريبا. He said, سألني إياه من لا بد لي من امتثال سؤله الممتثل فقلت مع عجزي ومع إشفاقي معتمدا على القدير الباقي. He said, سألني إياه من لا بد لي من امتثال سؤله الممتثل. Someone who I have to listen to what he says told me to write this book. And he's referring to who? His teacher, Abdullah al-Qara'awi. He's referring to his teacher Abdullah al-Qara'awi rahimahullah ta'ala. He's the one who told him to write this kitab. So he was very little when he wrote it. Very, very young. Rahimahullah ta'ala. And then he has a 3 mujallad sharh on it. He called it Ma'arij al-Qubul. where he explained the kitab. 3 volumes. The sharh makes it amazing. You're shocked with what the author rahimahullah mentions in there. rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah. لكن كتب ابن عبد الوهاب, كتب ابن عبد الوهاب, there's nothing like it. And why? The way that the Shaykh uses the dalil. يعني قد يكون الشخص حافظا, a person might be حافظ بكتاب الله عز وجل, لكن ابن عبد الوهاب rahimahullah gives the person طريقة الاستنباط. He teaches the person how to use the dalil في موضعه. يعني a person might be حافظ بكتاب الله but wouldn't know what dalil to use in this مسألة. Muhammad Abdul Wahab, mashallah, every issue, والدليل قوله تعالى, والدليل قوله تعالى, والدليل قوله تعالى. So the person learns how to use the Quran as a dalil and an istidlal. And that's the hardest thing on the innovators, Ahlul Bid'ah. They don't like people use the Quran and the Sunnah a lot. It burns them. It really does. Try it. Say قال الله تعالى, and the messenger said, and Allah said, and the messenger said, and Ibn Abbas said, and then this said. They don't like it. They get very annoyed with that. بارك الله فيك يا أستاذ. في أي منشور هو الأقرب في ترجمة وصف الصلاة؟ Okay, person who didn't do sajdah entire life but went to Jannah because of Tawheed, is it authentic, and any explanation? Yani there was a Sahabi who took Islam at the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the battlefield, he took Islam in the battlefield, and he, when he took Islam, he died in that fight, and he never got the chance to pray the Salah. He entered Jannah. So the scholars, they say, if a person says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, and before the time of the Salah reaches and he dies, he's a Muslim. He's a Muslim. Mata ala al-Islam. He came with the first thing that was needed from him, which is the hadith of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, إنك تأتي قوم من أهل الكتاب فليكن أول ما تدعوهم إليهم شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله فإن هم أطاعوك لذلك فأخبرهم أن الله افترض عليهم 5 صلوات في كل يوم وليلة. So the Salah comes after the Shahadatain. This man didn't have the chance to pray the Salah. So he, of course, la shakka, he entered Jannah without having to pray. But someone, Dhuhr came, and they didn't pray. They said, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah. Dhuhr came. They know Dhuhr. They know the Salah. They know they have to pray. And the Salah came. The scholars are of the opinion that that person leaves the religion. If he knows that Dhuhr is wajib, he's been told that the Dhuhr is wajib, he has to pray. He can't miss it. Okay? So that's the difference between a person who never got the chance to pray. ما هو الصحيح 7 أحرف أو أحرف 7? The hadith mentions that the Prophet ﷺ, he said أنزل القرآن على 7 أحرف. That's how the Messenger ﷺ said it. أحسن الله إليكم كم متن يحفظ في فن واحد وأي مستوى. Every single brother asked a question. He said, how many matn should a person memorize? Every field try to memorize a poetry for it. يعني whether it could be عقيدة, سلم الوصول, أصول الفقه, مراقي السعود, نحو ألفية ابن مالك, سيرة ألفية العراقي, ألفية السيرة by ولي الدين العراقي, مصطلح حديث ألفية العراقي by زين الدين العراقي, فقه, for example, فقه الشافعي, الزبد لابن الرسلان, if you want to memorize a نظم. And don't memorize حرف الدين العمريطي is نظم of متن أبي شجاع. It's 1,000 lines, and the Zubad is 1,000 lines, and the Zubad is bigger. So it's better just to memorize Zubad. Allah al-Musta'an. In Balagha, عقود الجمان by Suyuti. In قواعد الفقهية, الفرائد البهية. If you're a Hanbali, you memorize in a fiqh book, then Nadm al-Jali is very good. Nadm al-Jali is very good in the Hanbali madhab. الله المستعان على ما تصفون. What other field? المنطق, if you're going to memorize it, then الأخضري سلم منورق في علم المنطق is good. قراءات شاطبية, and then after that الدرة, and then طيبة النشر. In adab, then you memorize آداب طالب العلم, the adab of a student of knowledge. Then the kitab منظومة الآداب لابن عبد القوي المرداوي رحمه الله. You memorize that. أصول التفسير, you memorize منظومة الزمزمي. It's very good. It'll help you. All of the fields, يعني there's another you can memorize in each of the fields. And if there's another field that I missed out, then inshallah ta'ala you could tell me. There are 2 alfiya on same topic. Why do scholars recommend of Malik? يعني there are different alfiyat, like alfiyat al-Suyuti and alfiyat al-Iraqi in مصطلح الحديث. لا شك alfiyat al-Iraqi is better in some places, and in some places Suyuti is better. لكن بالنسبة إلي, according to me, أنا قلبي يطمئن إليها ألفية العراقي. ألفية العراقي is better to me than Suyuti, and I have my reasons. But if you want to know more about it, get the kitab فتح المغيث. The muqaddimah, the muhaqqiq is Abdul Karim al-Qudayr. He mentions the furuq between the two and which one is better. Tawheed Sulam al-Wusul you memorize. Sarf, of course, Alfiyat al-Malik has sarf in it. Half of it sarf is half of it is nahu, or a lot of it. Sirah, I mentioned it. What books to memorize, inshallah ta'ala. Always my brain questions and never got answer. If Imam Shafi'i was student of Imam Malik, why Imam Shafi'i made Qunut in Fajr prayer compulsory? As I said to you before, the masail that these scholars generally differed upon are masail which are istinbat and ijtihadi issues. How do we understand this text? How do we extract a ruling from this text? One might take this general, this might take it specific. One might take it as the Prophet's action, and one might take it as the Prophet's speech, and say that the Prophet's speech might be put before the Prophet's actions. And what I mean is that while I was teaching the Matn Abi Shuja', I have a sharh of Matn Abi Shuja'. When I was teaching it, I used to try to focus on bringing the reasons of why there is difference in this issue. So the student can become, learn and train himself to know the sababul khilaf. Many people keep telling you, اختلف العلماء. But what is the reason? Why do they differ? And one of the best things in fiqh to know is mansha'ul khilaf. It's very important. Any mas'ala you're learning, learn mansha'ul khilaf. What brought about this khilaf? Why do they differ? Why are they differing? Majority of the times you learn that the mansha'ul khilaf and where it comes from is a mas'ala usuriyah, a mas'ala qa'idah that they differ upon. There's a qa'idah that's pushing each one to another side. Okay? And that's what's making one party this way, this party. Brothers and sisters, please listen to this. Kutubul madahibs, if you look at kutubul madahibs and fiqh that are studied generally speaking, you learn that the Quran and the Sunnah consist of wordings and meanings, alfaz and ma'ani. Okay? There's alfaz in the Quran and the Sunnah, and there's ma'ani, meanings that are taken from it. Some of the madahibs, they have jumud on the alfaz, and they kind of dismiss the ma'ani. That there is no jumud, there's harshness and stubbornness on the wording, and they ignore the meaning. I'll give you an example. Ibn Hazm, when it came to the hadith, تُسْتَأْذَنُ الْبِكْرِ, the virgin girl, she's asked if she wants to get married. وَإِذْنُهَا السُّكُوتِ, the Prophet said her silence is her acceptance. So the virgin is asked. Her father comes up to her and he says to her, do you want to get married to Allan, Fulan ibn Fulan? And she smiles, or she covers her face, or she gets nervous, she sweats. This is a sign. She doesn't have to say, Dad, yes. Of course, the ones nowadays say, Dad, yes. But the ones before, they were slightly shy. So she'll cover her face, she'll turn away, she'll get close to her mom, she'll start shivering. The father knows that she wants this. So he'll go and he gets married her off to this, to the guy. Ibn Hazm said that the Prophet said, her permission is her saying nothing. Her silence is her permission. Ibn Hazm said if she says yes, we're not going to marry her off. عرفتم? He said that the virgin's acceptance is her silence. If she talks, it's not an acceptance. Because the hadith said her silence is an acceptance. No. He has jumud. He's been stubborn on the word. He's been harsh on the word. Rahimahullah ta'ala. Are we all together, brothers? And he should have done tawassu' fil ma'ani. He should have slightly spread out and look at that this is the makhraj, kharaja makhraj al-ghalib. That this is the general context that the women are like that. But if she speaks, oh, it's even better. Are we all together? So what I mean is that madhabs, you find this issue. You find this issue of tawassu' fil alfadh wal ma'ani. I'll give you an example. Allah said in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا. There's some mentioned, some fuqaha, min al-gharaib, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا. That if a person is praying in a dark room, he can take off all of his clothes, la bas. Because the night is his clothing. That's jumudu fil lafz. That's stubbornness on the heart, the word. So kutubul madahibs, when you study it, some madhabs they're slightly staunch on the wordings and very, very harsh on the meaning. Like it's taken out. يعني توسع في المعاني. And others are different. So that's something, inshallah ta'ala, you should study. Ustadh, can you do a course on Sharh Sunnah by Imam al-Barbahari? There are many lessons on Al-Aqid wa-Sidi, but few on Sharh Sunnah by Barbahari in English. And that which is in English is usually from them. So yes, inshallah ta'ala, bi-idhnillah al-kareem, we will do that, the sharh of that great kitab. We will do a sharh on that great book, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, last question, inshallah ta'ala. ما هو الطريق تخريج الحديث? How should one do takhrij of the hadith? If you want to learn how to do takhrij of hadith, I encourage you to buy the kitab At-Ta'sil by Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd. He teaches how to do takhrij al-hadith and the way to do takhrij al-hadith. Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd has a kitab on it. It's called At-Ta'sil, where he talks about في طريق التخريج, how to do takhrij of hadith and how to grade a hadith. If you want to learn it, also try to read the works of Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala. Shaykh Nasir rahimahullah is very profound and amazing in the way that he does takhrij al-hadith. Anything which I have said that was wrong or incorrect is from me and shaitan, and Allah and his messenger are both free from it. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.